Hey there, welcome to my channel. I'm Sister Cerise, your soul coach, and I'm looking forward to being friends with you, my soul sister and my soul brother. Right now, we're going to talk about Chris Lighty because of what's going on in the courts with Diddy. There's a lot of speculation around Chris Lighty's death as well, and it being related to Diddy. First, we're going to get into who Chris Lighty is. For those of you who may not know, that he was the mogul behind the music. He wasn't just managing artists, he was shaping the hip hop culture. This was the essence of Chris Lighty, one of the most powerful and respected figures in the world of hip hop. And unfortunately, a lot of the younger generation doesn't know this, and a lot of the original generation, the OGs, sometimes forget this, that Chris Lighty's name was often mentioned alongside the biggest artists in the game, but his story and tragic death remains shrouded in mystery. In this video, we'll dive deep into Chris Lighty's career, the artists he managed, and the conspiracy theories surrounding his untimely passing. Let's take a closer look at the man behind the music and the lasting legacy he left in the world of hip-hop. Chris Lighty, born Daryl Stephen Lighty on May 8, 1968, in the Bronx, New York, rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most influential figures in hip-hop. Raised in the Bronx River housing projects, Chris grew up surrounded by the grit and determination that would later define his career. As a teenager, Chris was drawn to the hip-hop culture, a genre that was just beginning to explode. He started as a street promoter, managing local acts and making connections with the community. But Chris had bigger dreams. He wasn't content just being part of the scene. He wanted to shape it. Chris's early break came when he worked with the legendary Russell Simmons and his label, Def Jam. However, it was just the beginning, because it was his founding of Violator Management and Violator Records in the late 1990s that marked the true beginning of his empire. Violator wasn't just a management firm. It was a machine that helped shape the careers of some of the biggest names in hip-hop. Known as Baby Chris to his friends, his ability to understand both the business side and the creative side of hip-hop made him invaluable. He was a mastermind at positioning artists to not only succeed, but to thrive in the evolving music industry. Chris Lighty was more than a manager. He was a visionary. His ability to spot talent and mold it into global superstardom was unmatched. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the Diddy comparison. But artists like LL Cool J, Missy Elliott, Busta Rhymes, Fat Joe, and 50 Cent owe much of their success to Chris's strategic guidance. LL Cool J, who was already an established star when he joined Violator, benefited from Chris's innovative marketing techniques. Chris was instrumental in launching LL's career into new realms, ensuring that he remained relevant in the industry through the 90s and beyond. Missy Elliott, an artist known for her groundbreaking music and creativity, saw her career explode under Chris's management. And we know how big she was. She became one of the most successful female hip-hop artists of all time, thanks in part to Chris's knack for securing major deals and pushing the brand that she had and he believed in. Chris's most famous success story, however, is undoubtedly 50 Cent. In the early 2000s, Chris saw something in 50 Cent that others didn't. An artist with immense potential who needed the right platform. Chris brokered the historic deal with Vitamin Water, turning 50 Cent into one of the wealthiest hip hop moguls. The partnership made over 100 million, propelling into the rarefied air of business moguls like Jay-Z and Diddy. But Chris didn't stop there. He was also behind the rise of other acts like A Tribe Called Quest, Mobb Deep, and Marcus Houston, guiding them through the highs and lows of the music business and securing them lucrative deals along the way. Chris Lighty's life came to a tragic end on August 30th, 2012. The official cause of death was ruled a suicide. The official story is that Chris was found dead from a gunshot wound to the head outside his Bronx apartment on the patio. Now, how does that make sense? Wouldn't someone shoot themselves in a much more intimate setting, not outside of the apartment? At first glance, it seemed like a tragic end to a life that had achieved so much. But for those who knew Chris, it didn't add up. Let's explore the theories that continue to surround Chris's timely death. Let's look at theory 1. Murder over money or business deals. Chris was managing some of the biggest names in music, which meant there was a lot of money involved. Some have speculated that Chris Lighty was killed because of a bad business deal or financial dispute. The idea that someone in the industry, perhaps an individual with a lot to lose, may have silenced Chris to protect their own interests. Chris was known to have made enemies over the years, particularly in the cutthroat world of hip-hop business dealings. Could his death have been the result of a behind-the-scenes financial dispute gone wrong? Theory 2. Domestic dispute gone wrong. One of the more widely discussed theories is that Chris's death was the result of a domestic dispute. He had been estranged from his wife, and reportedly, the two were having a heated argument the night of his death. Some close to Chris say they couldn't believe he would have taken his own life over a personal issue. However, others have pointed out that his death came shortly after a messy divorce and a major falling out with his wife, which could have escalated emotionally. Did the domestic tension play a role in Chris's death? Or is it another red herring? Theory 3. The industry takeout. Chris Lighty was deeply embedded in the music industry. He knew the inner workings of the business, and some argue that he might have become a threat to those who wanted to keep their operations hidden from public view. Did the industry elites decide to eliminate him because he knew too much? Chris's deep connections and extensive knowledge made him one of the few managers who truly understood the interaction of music, money, and power. Could some of the biggest figures in the business have orchestrated his death to keep certain secrets buried? Theory 4. The IRS debt narrative. Another theory focuses on Chris's financial struggles. It was widely reported that Chris was dealing with a significant amount of tax debt. Some speculated that the mounting pressure from the IRS may have driven him to suicide. But those close to Chris, including his family, refuted this narrative, claiming that he was actually in the process of resolving his financial issues. They argue that the IRS debt story was just another cover-up for a more sinister truth. Could Chris's financial situation have been used as a convenient excuse to explain his death while hiding something more dangerous? Theory 5. The physical evidence didn't add up. Perhaps one of the most compelling aspects of the case is the physical evidence, or lack thereof. Chris's brother, Dave Lighty, has raised concerns about the forensic details of his death. The blood at the scene didn't align with what would be expected from a gunshot wound, leading some to believe that Chris's death may not have been fully investigated. The inconsistencies in the evidence have fueled further speculation, with many questioning whether the authorities truly dug deep enough into the circumstances surrounding Chris's death. When Chris Lighty passed away, the response from the music industry was one of shock and disbelief. 50 Cent, who had been particularly close to Chris, was one of the first to speak out. He stated that the idea of Chris committing suicide just didn't make sense. 50 said, "Chris was strong, focused, and sharp. We were talking about future projects just days before his death. He wouldn't have taken his own life like that." Fat Joe, another artist who had been managed by Chris, echoed 50 Cent's sentiments. He said, "Chris was too smart, too strong for this. It doesn't add up. He wasn't the type of person to just give up." L.A. Reid, a respected music executive, also weighed in, calling Chris a visionary whose loss was deeply felt in the industry. The outpouring of love and admiration for Chris Lighty from his peers shows just how much of an impact he had on the world of music and business. Now let's talk about the Diddy connection. Among the most talked about theories is the possibility that Sean Diddy Combs had a hand in Chris Lighty's death. The two men had a notoriously complicated relationship, with business disputes often at the center. Chris Lighty managed both 50 Cent and Fat Joe, who had long-standing feuds with Diddy. Was it possible that business rivalries in the music industry played a part in Chris's tragic end? While there's no concrete evidence to suggest that Diddy was involved, the theory remains one of the most talked about. The suspicion surrounding Diddy and Chris's death is rooted in a combination of industry whispers, business rivalries, and past behavior problems. That has caused some to question Diddy's role, not necessarily in direct involvement, but as part of the high-pressure atmosphere that may have contributed to Chris's tragic end. Here's a breakdown of why some people suspect Diddy, or at least feel he's connected to the shadows around Chris Lighty's death. Chris Lighty and Diddy operated in the same industry space, hip-hop management and branding, and were often in competition for influence, artists, and deals. Chris Lighty was one of the few Black executives in hip-hop who built his own empire without attaching himself to someone else's brand. This made him both respected and a potential threat to others. He successfully managed 50 Cent, who had public beefs with Diddy, and Lighty stood by 50 through all of them. Some believe Diddy may have seen Chris's independence and influence as competition to his own empire. The music industry is no stranger to power plays and eliminating threats, financially or otherwise. Chris was known to have a deep understanding of the behind-the-scenes operations of major label deals, including things that might not be meant for public knowledge. Some theorists suggest that Diddy, known for being strategic and controlling about his image and legacy, may have felt threatened by what Chris knew, especially if Chris ever chose to speak out. Several people close to Chris, including 50 Cent, said he didn't seem suicidal at all. They were even discussing future plans and new business ventures days before he died. This raised suspicion. Why would someone with ongoing projects and optimism suddenly end it all? Theories emerged that Chris was under unseen pressure from powerful individuals, possibly including Diddy, and that he may have been boxed in or even threatened. Diddy has a long history of being at the center of industry drama, and in recent years has come under fire for abuse allegations, controlling behavior, and industry manipulation. People point to the mysterious deaths or silencing of those once close to him, such as Kim Porter, the mother of his children, who died suddenly in 2018 under unclear circumstances. Her death reignited suspicions about others tied to Diddy who died or fell out of the spotlight. Chris Lighty's name often comes up in this context as yet another figure who knew too much or couldn't be controlled. Unlike many others in the music industry who publicly expressed their shock and sadness over Chris's death, Diddy remained quiet. For someone so close to many artists managed by Chris, his lack of visible support or tribute struck people as odd. Some believe the silence was strategic, to avoid drawing attention, or possibly because of feelings of involvement or guilt. There's no public concrete evidence linking Diddy to Chris Lighty's death, but conspiracy theorists argue that doesn't mean much in the elite world of entertainment power. Diddy has resources, connections, and influence, and that alone makes people wonder if he could have played a part in applying pressure or facilitating the conditions that led to Chris's downfall. Despite the tragic end to his life, Chris Lighty's legacy endures. He wasn't just a manager. He was a true pioneer, someone who understood the unique relationship between talent and business. Chris helped create a blueprint for the modern-day hip-hop mogul, inspiring a new generation of managers, producers, and entrepreneurs. Chris Lighty was more than a music executive. He was a visionary, a kingmaker, a brother from the Bronx who turned pain into power and helped others do the same. He opened doors for artists who once had none. He turned street dreams into corporate deals. He stood at the intersection of culture and commerce, and he made history. But in an industry known for smoke and mirrors, sometimes the brightest lights cast the deepest shadows. The official story says Chris took his own life. But the unofficial stories, the whispers, the contradictions, the confusion, tell us there's more to the tale. Was it pressure? Betrayal? A secret too big to keep? Or was Chris Lighty the latest soul in a long line of legends lost under suspicious circumstances? Whatever the truth is, one thing is certain. Chris Lighty deserves answers. He deserves to be remembered, not for how he died only, but how he lived. And if there is more to this story, let it come to light, because silence only serves those who benefit from the dark. Rest in power, Chris Lighty. May your spirit echo in every lyric, every beat, and every breakthrough that came because you dared to believe in more. Thank you for being here. If you found this video enlightening or interesting, I ask you to please support my channel by simply hitting subscribe. It's a free way to show me that you enjoy my content. I'm Sister Cerise. I'm bringing you truth wrapped in rhythm. Stay wise, stay alive, and never stop asking questions. Until next time, my soul sister, my soul brother, this is your soul coach, Sister Cerise. Peace, power, and purpose to you. Remember, please be good to yourself out there. Tomorrow is not promised, so make the best of today.